Hey everybody, it's Monika and welcome to my channel where I help social workers, therapists, and helping professionals deepen their level of self-awareness and increase their competence and confidence in the profession. So for today's video, I want to talk about how do you know when it's time to leave your social work job? So we're going to talk about a couple questions that you can ask yourself. So if you're interested in this topic, then please keep watching. I'm Monika Thomas, the founder and clinical social worker at Kindred Connections Therapy Center. I've been a social worker for over 12 years. I decided to do an entire YouTube channel on my journey from cubicle working social worker to successful entrepreneur. Welcome to my channel. I know that many of you are not only second guessing your decision to become a social worker, some of you are asking whether or not you should go back to school to get your master's degree, and some of you are struggling in your internship where it's not going as well as you would like for it to, or maybe you're not learning the things that you would like to learn, or some of you are at the point where you're thinking about transitioning out of your career. I actually took a poll on my Instagram to ask how many of you were thinking about transitioning this year, and about 60% of you said that you were looking to switch jobs. So I thought it was important to make this video to give you a couple things that you should be thinking about or questions that you should be asking yourself if now is the time for you to switch. Hey social workers, so I want to invite you to my upcoming training. The training is called How to Map Out Your Social Work Career Without Stress and Overwhelm. So this is perfect for you if you've been feeling like you're all over the place in your social work career, you don't really know what direction you want to go in your career, or if you're thinking about pivoting, maybe you've been working in a certain area of the profession and you're thinking maybe it's time for me to start doing something different or to transition into macro level work, or maybe it's time for me to really start considering starting my private practice. So wherever you are in your social work career, I really think that this training is going to be helpful for you because it's really going to allow you to think about how you can start making value aligned decisions and then how you can start being intentional about planning out the next phases of your social work career. So I'm going to leave the link to the training in the bio, and I really think it's going to be helpful, and I encourage you to sign up for the upcoming training. So one of the ways you know that it's time for you to start thinking about transitioning out of your current position is you realize that there's no upward mobility for you in the position that you're in. So you might find that you're doing monotonous work over and over again, day in and day out. There's no opportunities for you to grow in the position or the career opportunities that are available for you to grow. It's not something that you're really interested in doing, and you really couldn't see yourself moving up in the company. The company might not be providing any additional training for you or any additional education for you to level up in your skills. And when you do ask for additional training, they might make promises and say that things are going to happen and tell you that new opportunities are going to be coming available, but nothing ever materializes from that. So if you have a company who continues to give you promises and strings you along, but really doesn't have any clear path for you professionally, you might want to consider looking elsewhere. The second thing that you might want to pay attention to determine whether or not it's time to transition is if you notice that your mood is shifting towards the people that you love and care about. So this is really about you being able to manage certain stressors that are happening at work that you're then bringing home. So if you find that you're having an incident at work with your supervisor or with coworkers, and maybe it's things that are continuing to happen over and over again, and it's really increasing your level of stress, it's really causing you not to enjoy the work just because of the dynamics within the company, or you're noticing that you're losing your voice, maybe you're not speaking up for yourself, or you notice you're the only one who's continuing to speak up and no one else around you is saying anything, you find that you're always the lone ranger every time something needs to be elevated to the top, and maybe you're sick of playing that role of savior in your profession where other people see that unethical things are happening or the way the situations are being handled are unfair or unequitable and no one is saying anything. So if you find that you're taking a lot of that stress home and then you're taking it out on your children, or you're taking it out on your partner or people that you love and care about, you might want to consider switching positions. The one caveat that I would say with this one though is before you think about switching positions because of stress, you really want to do a good job of being able to speak up for yourself, to be able to set boundaries, and to be able to say what you think and what you feel, because you switching jobs won't change the fact that you're playing that savior role in your position, or it won't change the fact that you're taking on more work when you really don't want to, or it might not change the fact that work is going to be stressful. So just because you change environments, if you don't change your habits and if you don't change your patterns, you can take some of those same habits and patterns into a new work environment. So you always want to go internal. You want to think about the ways that you are showing up for yourself, and you want to think about the fact that you teach people how to treat you. So you want to think about, what are you tolerating? What are you saying yes to? What are you allowing people to think is okay in terms of how they treat you, how they talk to you, and how they address you? And if you're not addressing those things appropriately, then you can find again that you take those same habits into your new work environment. So the third way that you will know that it's time for you to switch careers is if you feel unsupported by your supervisor and disrespected. So the disrespect could come from your supervisor, or it could come from other coworkers. So that would mean if your opinions are being devalued in meetings, or if you're speaking up and giving ideas and suggestions and they're really not taken into consideration, or if you've continuously brought situations up to your supervisor and asked them to address the situation and they've refused to do it, or they've not done it in a way that really lets you know that you're supported and that they have your back. So if you feel isolated and alone in your position, perhaps you're working in an environment where you're the only woman there, where you're the only Black woman there, where you are the youngest person there. So whenever you're working in an environment like that and you feel isolated and you feel like you're not able to connect with your peers, where although you're working around a lot of people, it still feels lonely, that might be an indication that you need to switch careers. Now, this is going to be another one of those times where you're going to need to go within and ask yourself the hard questions. Are you putting yourself out there enough at the position? Do you sometimes close yourself off where people really don't know how to approach you? Now, that's a point for you to assess for yourself personally. That doesn't mean that you allow someone to project a perception onto you. It means that you really go within and you assess your own personality and you decide for yourself, are you coming across in that way? And then you want to ask yourself why. What's going on internally to where you feel like you have to show up that way? Do you feel like you have to protect yourself from your supervisor? Do you feel like you have to protect yourself from your coworkers, where there's really not a teaming environment, where it's like every person for themselves? So if that's the case, you might want to consider looking somewhere else. But whenever you decide that it's time to look somewhere else, you never know what the new environment is going to be like. And it's possible that you can be moving into a position that's either the same or worse than what you've already experienced. And lastly, you want to start with an assessment of your values. So I define values as all of those things that you consider to be good, bad, right, wrong, fair, unfair, just, unjust, okay, not okay, appropriate, inappropriate. You have a set of values and beliefs that are at the core of your being. So the reason why you sometimes feel dissatisfaction in your work could be because you're working in jobs that are not aligned with your values. So if that's the case, that could be another reason why you would want to switch positions. But what I want to challenge you to do is, before you move into a new position, I want you to assess your values. So what that looks like, I want you to write down all of those things that you perceive to be good, bad, right, wrong, just, unjust, fair, unfair, okay, not okay, appropriate, inappropriate, because that's going to be your guide to determine what type of work you will be most passionate in doing. So what this will look like is you'll write down all of those things that you say, this should be this way. People should be paid fairly. People should be able to take breaks. It's not right that people have to use their overtime. I think it's unacceptable for a supervisor to call you on your day off. It's not okay to be labeled as a troublemaker just because I speak out about things that aren't right that's happening. So those are your values. So when you write down those statements, those things that you believe, then I want you to be able to give those things a name. So maybe that value is justice, fairness, equity, hope, peace, communication. If you can synthesize those ideas down to a word, that will give you what your core values are. So when you go out and you start looking for another position, you want to begin thinking about what are those values that are must-haves in your new position. Because if you don't identify what those values are, you'll find yourself again going into a position that continues to be misaligned, and then you won't be happy in that position either. So if you're doing work that's continuously not aligned with your values, then you're going to experience more dissatisfaction with that work. The more that you feel like this work is really meaningful to you, it aligns with your values, it speaks to who you are as a person, it checks checks off a lot of the boxes around the things that matter to you and the things that are important to you, you might find that you have a higher level of satisfaction with the work that you're doing. Part of your value system might be teamwork. It might be collaboration. It might be positive decision making, collaborative decision making. So whatever those things are that matter to you, get all of those things down on the list. And then when you start applying for a job, look at the company culture and then determine what's going to be the best fit for you based off of your values. Now, while you're navigating your career, you never want to go through this path without having a clear plan, without designing your career with intention. Being able to sit down and create a clear plan for yourself is going to be equally as important as finding a new position. That way you won't find yourself bouncing around from place to place and feeling like you have no direction. And if you're ready to make the decision, you've considered those 4 points, I want you to consider downloading my 112 Careers in Social Work download, because that's going to begin giving you some ideas on the different types of social work careers that you can enter into. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the description and you can access that if you think it will be helpful. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, or share it. I'll be sharing more videos to help you deepen your level of self-awareness and to increase your competence and confidence in the profession. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, be well.